Hello, everybody. I'm Sherry Winchester Schultz, and I will be the moderator this evening. I'd like to introduce you to the rest of our panel. We have Joe Tarquino. It is Joe's birthday today. His 21st birthday, as Michael pointed out.
Absolutely.
Joe is the owner of Nail It Innovations. Nail It Innovations, Inc. is an award-winning remodeling company and is a member of the National Association of the Remodeling Industry. We are a remodeling company specializing in home improvement projects such as bathrooms, kitchens, and basement remodeling, as well as custom woodworking. Joe provides quality craftsmanship on schedule and within a no-nonsense budget. We also have David Pollard, who is an architect, builder, and co-founder of Live Companies. Since 2012, Live Company has designed and built inspiring remodels, additions, and custom homes throughout Chicago's western suburbs with a design-first mentality. Live Company has won 14 NARI GC Remodeling Excellence Awards, 4 NARI Regional CODI Awards, been nominated for multiple national NARI awards, been inducted into the Remodeling Big 50, and in 2018, Dave made it onto Pro Remodelers 40 Under 40 list. Live Company was also the first company in Illinois to achieve NARI's esteemed Accredited Remodeling Company designation. We also have Allison Case Anderson. Allison is the founder and CEO of Integro Builders. Her seed of passion for the built environment began under the influence of some of the most renowned architects in Chicago at Powell Kleinschmidt Interior Architecture. Over the years, the seed has manifested itself into a fervent conviction to appreciate, invigorate, and inspire residential buildings. Allison has a bachelor's degree in business management and is a certified passive house builder. In addition to participating as a guest lecturer for industry organizations, Allison has been featured on HGTV, the Chicago Tribune, Forbes, top-rated international podcasts, and other national publications. She was recognized among America's top 50 remodelers by Remodeling Magazine. And again, I'm Sherry Winchester Schultz, and I am a past president for NARI of Greater Chicagoland and a general busybody, and I like to tell people what to do and ask them lots of questions. So that's why I job as moderator. So with that, let us begin. Here we are, live from Joe's kitchen.
Yeah.
So the main reason we're here today is to find out how to get started and what makes the Remodeling Excellence Awards such an interesting and enviable award to win, and what you do with it once you've won it. So the first question I put to the panel is, how does one get started?
Yeah, I would say probably the most important thing to get started is to have really good photos. I mean, there's certainly a story that's going to be behind whatever it is that you submit, but the photos are really going to have to tell the story of what it is that was produced in the built environment. So photos are a really important thing. If there's anything that we did right from the beginning of LiveCo, is we kind of sprung for having a really good photographer, take good photos and present our work in a different light.
Yeah, I agree with that. You know, the other thing too is, even if you're a contractor and you don't want to pay for, an expensive photographer, I would greatly advise, if you're going to take it with your phone, please, for the love of God, turn it this way. No photos like this. You can't get a photo onto a 8.5 by 11 landscape like this. So, you know, there's a lot of tutorials out there for like $99 or something where you can take a little iPhone photo class and learn how to hold your phone and get decent pictures. But just know that, like, for your presentation, you need the landscape views. So
as a former publisher of a home improvement magazine, let me tell you that there's a huge difference. Even though the phones nowadays have cameras that are phenomenal, there's a huge difference between a professional photographer and your iPhone. So splurge a little bit, spend the extra money, and have a professional photographer take your after photos. Even if you don't use them as for the before photos, definitely use them as an after.
Absolutely. You got to think that photography has a lot less to do with the subject and more to do with lighting. Your camera is going to be capturing light. So when you hire a professional, they're probably going to be adding light into that space with whatever they need to do that, to create those pictures that you see that are so impressive. You're not going to get that with your camera, with your phone.
You have a lot of flat, shiny, reflective surfaces that you're dealing with, whether it's a kitchen or a bathroom.
Yep. And Tony is a photographer himself, and he's saying that I'm correct.
Yeah, I saw one of the questions there is, Tony, what do you charge for photography?
Not enough.
That's really his jam, but he does great work. But I think that's an interesting question, is where do you find a photographer? I don't think you want to reach out to an architectural photographer necessarily who's doing stuff for publications. But what we've done, and we've used a lot of different ones, but I think a really good resource is go through real estate photos. And if you see someone puts a house up and it has really cool photos, reach out to that realtor and say, hey, who shot this for you? Because they have a pretty good sense of capturing a space. They have a pretty good sense of lighting. And they're usually really efficient. So they don't need to go do a photo shoot for 5 or 6 hours. They can just kind of go through it, and they have all the equipment.
So while we're on the topic of photos, for those of you who have submitted for the competition, what if you don't have a before picture? Can you still submit, or do you have to have a before photo for the submissions?
Well, the first question is, why would you not have a before photo? And that doesn't have to be a pro photo at all. And actually, Joe, I think you said it. It doesn't have to be a pro photo before. We actually prefer the before photo to be as horrible as possible, right? We want that to just be like dark, like everything about it is just awful. So
yeah, we're not hiring a professional photographer to come in and take a picture of the before photo. I mean, that's just something we're not doing.
Yeah, and I think anyone out there who's doing a project, probably when they first go to the job and document, they're going to take photos. So one thing to think about is when you take photos, try and get the whole space the best that you can. Another resource is actually a lot of houses will have listing photos on Zillow. So you can kind of scroll through those if it was sold in the last 10 years, and you can find those. Usually you need to reach out to whoever, you might have a copyright on it or something, but that's usually a pretty good resource because they'll have, a wide angle as well. But yeah, I mean, if you don't, Allie, what do you think? I mean, if you don't have a before photo, I guess it depends on the story you're telling in your award submission, right?
You know who may have before photos are the homeowners.
Yeah, that's a great point.
They may have, but I would just try, even if it's a construction photo. I mean, I'm always taking pictures of like weird stuff on job sites where it's like, what am I doing with this corner snap? So yeah, that's what I would say. But if you don't have before photos, I'd ask the homeowners. That's the only thing I can really think of. Or just kind of go through your phone as a project has been going and see if you can hodgepodge something together. Because you are telling a story with your presentation, and you do have to submit the before and the after.
And since Allison, since you brought up you're telling a story, it's really important that to tell that story and make it as clear as possible through the presentation, to try to do the before and after pictures in the same angle, at the same angle. That really will tell the story clearly and tell the reader what you're talking about, and they can then see, oh, there's the change, and see that. If you're showing them a before picture and then an after picture of some other weird angle, they may not pick up on that, and they'll be.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, actually, for us, when we're doing our before photos, we'll take a lot of pictures of the same room from a different angle, especially if, you're working from a drawing and you know that something's really going to transform. Like, this year one of them we're going to be submitting is is basically an empty room, and we're putting a fireplace in the middle of it, so we want to, those before photos we took from a lot of angles because we don't know how the photographer at the end is going to shoot that room.
Exactly, which is why it's so important to do so many before pictures. So back again, plan on, even if you don't know you're going to submit this project, pretend that you are. Treat it as you are, because you don't know.
Yeah.
And Tony Tripp is mentioning, make sure you also take construction photos. You'll use construction photos for your submission as well. So it's not, when you're submitting the photos, you're submitting before and after and during. Is that what you need for the submission?
Well, I don't think you need during, correct me if I'm wrong, but during really helps tell whatever, because in the presentation, you're trying to tell the reader about whatever problems that you needed to overcome throughout that project. And what better way to do that than to show them the problem, which is usually a during picture during the construction. So absolutely take pictures during. That will, again, once again, help tell the story.
Yeah, but make sure there's no people in those pictures.
No people.
Correct.
No people. No logo, no people.
And that is all spelled out in the directions.
Yeah. So speaking of which, everything you need to know you learned in kindergarten. When you're doing your submission, read the rules. And not only should you read the rules, but you need to read the evaluation criteria. So know what it is you have to do and know what it is that the judges are looking for. Because I promise you, the judges have their own checklist of things that they have to go down, and they are going to give you points for every single line item in that evaluation criteria. That's how you're judged. So if you did everything great, but then you didn't talk about how you were challenged on the project, you're probably going to lose because you're going to get no points in the challenging aspect if a judge can't piece it together from the other portions of your presentation. So you really want to hit it home. You want to make a list for yourself. Say, like, these are all the things that the judges are looking for, and have I touched all those things in my submission?
Tony Tripp says that is a very true statement.
I know. I feel like, Tony, you should be on this.
Yeah.
We're just reading he's scripting this. Whatever he writes, we're just reading.
Yeah, well, Tony is a past judge, so he knows what's up. He was going through all of them last year with me. So
who does judge? Who is judging these projects?
So generally the judges are a board member of NARI. In the past, we have exchanged submissions with other local chapters. So generally we will take all the Chicagoland submissions and give them to another chapter. And then we will in turn grade those chapters. But generally the demographic of the judges, a lot of them are contractors themselves. Some, if they're not contractors, then they are accredited in the industry. And the judges are really picked from people that are able to, that knows what a nice project looks like, and that can decipher between something that's done well and not done well. So we try to have craftsmen involved, and we also try to have people that are not necessarily laymen, but that are in the industry, but not in the nuts and bolts of it, because at the end of the day, we want something that a homeowner can recognize as a very good project. That's why the Remodeling Excellence Awards are there. They're there to promote the contractor, but that, it doesn't make sense if if a contractor has an award and some homeowners looking at it, trying to choose this contractor for a project, and they're like, we don't just want, we want the NARI Remodeling Excellence Awards to mean something. We want as many people to submit as possible, but we want it to be valuable. So, so the judges are handpicked by the board, and we try and get a medley of people in there with different backgrounds to make it a holistic judging approach.
And each project is anonymous.
Yes, each project
So
is
it's blind and submitted, right?
Yeah.
Which is why it's important not to have the logo or people in the photos, so that the judges can just judge on the merits of the criteria that has been set forward. Wonderful. So should the presentation be focused on any one thing in particular? I mean, we've talked about photos, we've talked about the criteria that's set up in the rule.
I think Joe kind of spoke to it in terms of story, right? And how important that is. There's way more to it than just a pretty picture. I think and why a lot of us do this and why we really enjoy a lot of the projects that we do is because we either solve the problem that was very complicated to solve for our clients, or we overcome some challenge. So I think that's what makes it more, objective for the judging as well, is that it's something that just carries a little bit more weight than, just a pretty magazine picture. So, and that's something that we've worked on a lot. Luann's actually on here, Luann runs our office, and she reviews. We kind of take a first run at presenting the story of each of the project, because they all have a story, and then she goes through it, and if she doesn't really buy it, she makes it awesome. She really kind of sells it a little bit more. And she's like, no, you're forgetting about this, because we're so used to being in the weeds. We kind of forget about the bigger picture of what's really valuable about each project.
So you would suggest maybe have somebody who is not the nuts and bolts kind of person look over your whole submission before you submit it? Maybe,
yeah, I think it's a great thing to do, because they see it the way a judge does. It doesn't know the homeowner, right? It doesn't, oh, remember that, someone, and that's not totally true, because Luann does kind of have a connection with them, but to have someone that can look at it a little bit more objectively, that can see it through someone else's eyes of whether or not this is really, relevant and special, I think is helpful. It's a fun way to revisit the project too, and the positive things that we really appreciate about and why we do what we do.
Yeah, and I mean, in these, someone just asked, how much time do you expect to dedicate to do the submissions? And, we'll get to that, but to that effect, at least for me, like by the time I've done this 30-page submission, I'm too close to it. I can't see typos. I'm like too close to it. You have to have somebody else looking at it and being like, what are you trying to say here? Like, and what seems to us is obvious, may not seem obvious to somebody else, So.
Absolutely. Good point.
So Joe, like how much time did you spend putting your presentation together last year?
Probably about 10 hours, I would say.
For one presentation?
Yeah, that would be fair. A few hours at night, every night for a couple nights during that week. And that includes sitting there in front of the sitting there in front of your files of 900 photos you have, and like which ones do you want to use, which angles are going to be the best, what kind of, which one's going to tell my story better. So there's a lot of just sitting there thinking it through and how to present it in a way that that's going to tell your story and also make you stand out to your competition, which is other submitters. So,
how long would you say you spend on yours, David?
That's a good question. So DJ, who works for us, I think has put them together the last 2 years, because I'll wait until the last second and have a meltdown. But I think it's not as simple as, hey, let's sit down and put together the package for the awards. What we have in our calendar is a deadline for when to submit the awards. But one way to think about that submittal is it's more than just a submittal. You're already writing, why the project's special and putting that on your website. You're already writing why it's special and putting it on House. You're already doing a blog post about it. You've already kind of curated what that submittal should be to tell the story, to already market it. So if you think about that, as soon as the project's done, put that package together, get it out on your website, use this for more than just an award. If you go to our House profile and look at a project, you're going to see a very similar blurb there that you're going to see on our website, you're going to see in our award submittal. And then we actually end up doing a project book as well for each of the clients. So that tells the story. It has the blurb, it has the before and afters, it has the before and after plans, it has the entire package. So if you think about it as kind of a holistic story of the project that has multiple outlets for it, it's even more valuable than just winning an award. And if you don't win an award, at least you have an awesome book that you made that you can carry with you for the rest of your life and give to each of the clients. So
yeah, that's
I don't have an answer. I don't know, 100 hours per.
Yeah.
Don't scare them.
100. Holy cow.
Well, yeah. So, I know that a lot of, what we've been saying and why we wanted to have this webinar is because we want everybody to feel like this is accessible. And I think the feedback that I got from a lot of contractors is like, oh, we're not one of the big fancy firms. We don't have a marketing staff, and we don't know, that's not us, and my, as a prior judge of the NARI submissions, we get all kinds. And yeah, I'll give it to you straight. If you're submitting in a popular category and you're submitting against someone who's got professional photos and who's got great blurbs and great write-ups, and they're telling a fantastic story, those people are likely going to win. So when we're talking about categories, we're talking about whole house renovation between $2 and $350 or whatever it is. Something like that is going to get a lot of submissions. You're going to have very stiff competition. So if this year you would like to get an award and you don't want to spend all that time and have it not pay off for you, choose a different category. The judges are really, really forgiving, and they just want to see that story told. But you do need
How many categories are there?
I think there's like 21 categories.
21.
And like last year, my favorite project was Dave's project. Not that I didn't like yours, Joe, but Dave, as far as I was concerned, the best project out of all of the awards was the interior element under 30 grand. And you just killed it, and
we were probably the only one in that category too.
Yeah. Oh, I think there was 2 in that category.
Okay.
But you just gave it your best effort, and it really paid off. And there were a couple others that were, bathroom under 25,000. There's some of those in between ones, or things that are like exterior element. Did you build a cool deck? Did you build a pergola? Did you do a custom bench? There are categories for that, and not a lot of people are going to submit for those categories, so you have a higher chance of getting that award over trying to say, over the more obvious ones, like $250,000-$350,000 addition or a whole house,
we've never won one of those, interior remodel over $1 million. It's kind of hard to compete in that category.
Yeah, there's so few of us.
Whatever.
Their tongues are in their cheeks. I don't know if you could see that.
But there, you know, to Allie's kind of category point, there are some really fascinating categories because there's, you know, basements, there's bathrooms, the interior elements are a really special one because that could be a lot of different things. That could just be, you know, the perfect kitchen island. It could be a million different things and I can't remember the rule. I believe you can submit the same project for two different categories for certain
That was
categories.
that's one of my other questions. Can you submit the same project in 2 categories?
Yeah.
You can.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can submit, you know, you can submit the whole project. Let's say you have a whole interior remodel. You can submit the whole interior remodel, but you can do a separate presentation for a piece of that and submit it in a different category. You can submit the exterior landscaping for the exterior part. You know, and that's actually a really good use of your time because, you know, to Dave's point, you've already got the blurb. You're already halfway there. You know, you've got your presentation little template going on. And, you know, your presentation template, it doesn't have to be Adobe InDesign. You know, it can be Word. It can be Microsoft Publisher. You know, it can be, you know, get creative.
So
I mean, what did
you're
you
saying
do?
that you don't
Mhm.
you don't need to pay a marketing consultant to be competitive?
No, not at all.
I'm just a one-man show, and I've won 2 years in a row now. And
Yeah,
I believe one of my projects won over Live Companies, who is a much larger company than mine. So you don't have to
Joe.
be.
It was all right. I'm very
You don't have to.
competitive.
You don't have to be Live companies to win.
Yeah, you don't have to be. You know, you don't have to have a guy who's strictly just entering, you know, presentations all year long, and that's his job. Like you know, anybody could. You don't have to be a big company to do this, so don't be afraid.
And you don't have to do multiples. You can just do one, right?
Yeah.
One.
Last year I only did one. Yeah, I only entered in one. Absolutely.
And related to that is you should be marketing. Every company who's part of an area should be marketing, right? So if you don't outsource that marketing and you do it yourself, you have to take it upon yourself to learn about marketing and kind of understand these things. And it all kind of ties together. So this is just kind of another prong of that. So we don't outsource any of that. We do it all in-house, you know, myself and then a couple other people in the office. But we love telling our story because we think that we bring value to the world. So one thing that's nice about the award submissions is it's really kind of a structured way that makes you put that whole narrative together and select the photos and do the before and afters. So if you're going to do no marketing at all, just do the award submissions and then use that as a marketing piece. You can even put the submission package as a PDF download on your website, right? And then people, hey, see this project portfolio, enter an email to download, or not even have them enter an email. So it all kind of ties together. So you definitely don't need to have professional marketing to do it, but you have to understand and want to market and tell your story.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, another thing too that we did last year is you can do your presentation in PowerPoint, you know, as slides, and then you can save it as a PDF for your submission. But then you can export a PowerPoint to a video, and you can post that video on your social media. You can put it on your website. You know, I mean, you can have stuff that looks really professional that you can just use over and over and over again. So, you know, these award submissions, I mean, for us, they're really just, they're a marketing tool. It's like the jumping off point for whatever project we're doing, you know, because otherwise we don't really have another time of the year that we're stepping back and saying like, okay, let's pat ourselves on the back on this project. Why? Because we've moved on to the next one and we're in the trenches, you know? So,
Yep. Great point.
You know, it's also, yeah, it's good to step back and pat yourself on the back with a good 100 hours worth of work on a presentation.
It's not 100 hours.
Yeah.
I think, 10 to properly put together a marketing package, awards or not, for a whole project in 10 hours, I think is reasonable, right? I think if you spend 10 hours really, and I don't know how many, depending on the project size, but, you know, say you do 10 projects in a year. So, you know, 10 days out of the year you spend putting together the story of that project, and then you have it for all these other outlets. I love the video from the PowerPoint idea, Allie. You can put that on
Yeah.
YouTube.
You cut it,
You
I didn't
you
even think
slice
of that.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, and also, you know, someone just asked a great question. Can you share some of the benefits of winning a NARI award for a new business? And, you know, a lot of the NARI members, in the last few years, they're startups, you know, they're guys that are coming out and they're starting on their own, guys and gals, of course. You know, when you're competing, especially in Chicagoland, like you have a lot of competition and you're often always on a competitive bid. And when you're starting out, I mean, what do you got? You got your price, you know, and you may have a resume or you may have worked for somebody else. You may have some photos, but I'll tell you what, it's a lot easier to sell and it's a lot easier to prove yourself as a newer contractor, as someone who can compete with some of the more established firms if you're award winning. You know, if you can say, yeah, I've been in business for 2 years, but I have 2 awards. Boom, it's over. Conversation over. Your credibility has been made, you know, and I would say for those of you that are startups or even those of you that are just getting a little slow and looking to up your game, it makes a difference, you know, because homeowners, they don't have a lot to go on when it comes to picking their contractor. You know, it's up to us as contractors to fill that void, to show the homeowners we're here to. An award is a perfect way to answer a question that they're not asking.
And the perfect example of that, Allie, is when Sherry read those intros. So we're just 3 jamokes up here, right? Like nobody knows us any different. But reading those intros and talking about those awards are qualifying that we know what we're talking about, right? They're establishing that level of trust. They're establishing that value. And, you know, when we talk about marketing, are you faster? Are you cheaper? Or are you better, right? I think most of us want to be better. If you want to be cheaper, there's value there too, because then you can actually be in the lower pricing categories in the awards, right? But for the most part, you know, I think most of us are trying to be better, and to be able to reinforce that, to have awards behind you from, you know, an esteemed remodeling industry, I think is very, very, very valuable for sure.
Yeah, and to that effect, like it's good, you know, as far as the National Association of Remodeling Industry, like you can't just sign up and be a member. You have to be approved by the board of NARI. You can't have changed your company name. You have to pass a background check. We research you. We discuss you at the board. You have to be formally approved. So to be a NARI member is not like, oh, I pay my money and I'm in. To be a NARI member is something that that homeowners rely on to determine whether or not you're legit. Because let's face it, Chicago is shady. You know?
Well, the whole industry is viewed as shady. You know, homeowners are constantly afraid they're going to be ripped off.
Yeah, and that's what NARI is here for. And that's why we give these awards, because like, you know, we want to support the good guys. We want to support the people that are doing good work and doing honest work and doing transparent work. And, you know, the awards are just such a fantastic way of doing that. And not only that, you know, for your homeowners, another way that the awards keep going is, you know, NARI will give you a certificate to give your clients, you know, like, here, this is what we did. What could make them feel better about spending thousands and thousands of dollars on you, you know, than to have their, you know, their own little pat on the back at the end. I mean, I know my clients love it. They get so excited.
Yep. Yep,
Oh,
likewise.
you know, that gives them bragging rights also, that my kitchen is award winning.
Absolutely. No, they love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you had to choose the most important thing to do for the award submission, what would it be? Allison, what do you think is the most important?
I think the most important thing in the submission is your ability to tell the story. You know, I think when I'm doing that final review, and someone just asked a question like, do you decide which project you're going to submit for an award before or after? And I'll tell you, it's usually after a project is done, whether or not I decide whether I'm going to submit an award. Sometimes some projects go more smoothly than others, and I don't really have a challenge, to really talk about that I can really pitch. And so, I think your ability to tell a story, and it doesn't have to be complicated, and it doesn't have to be in fancy words, but especially if you're taking those construction photos in progress and you're able to show a before, you're able to show a during, and then you're able to show that after. I think by the time you get to those last pages of the presentation where it's all before and after photos, and you're saying before, after, it's basically like a final reveal. If you've told your story well up to that point, you're going to be a strong contender, because everyone has gone on the journey with you through your project. And so I would say the most important thing to do is to tell your story.
Does everybody have the same number of pages to tell their story? Is there a minimum, maximum?
There's definitely a maximum. I think there is a minimum max.
Yeah, because you can only upload so many, I think.
It's
But I
30
can't remember
pages.
what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot.
30 pages. And it seems like a lot, but if you have 8 photos and you have 8 before photos,
Right.
you have 16 pages. And I know most of the time, like I get to 15 pages because it's not single spaced. This is not a novel,
Right.
This is like you have your title page, you have, and then after that, you have your introductory page. And then you have other pages that are maybe some construction photos, maybe some before photos on that page, and with like little captions next to them with like a little blurb, starting the story.
Is there a template for people to follow?
No.
I don't think so.
That might be
No.
an interesting thing to look into, is just kind of putting together a download of what the questions are. Because what happens right now is you go into the portal and you have to kind of do it in real time, but you don't really know what it is, so you can't really prep. So it might be nice to have some sort of a download where you could type it up in Word and then copy paste it or something like that. But
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just thinking for some people,
Yeah.
It's very easy to tell a story, to be extemporaneous and write. And other people need a question that they can answer, and then they can fine tune their answer. But just to, start from A and go to Z might be more difficult for some people.
I think there's kind of a template in terms of the narrative, and then the befores and afters, and there's a before plan and an after plan. So I think there's a little bit of a sequence that by default, by uploading it, tells that story, right? Do you guys agree?
Yeah. So basically, to be quite honest, the portal is not so straightforward, and it's a little confusing because NARI National has their Contractor of the Year awards, and it's the same portal that our local Remodeling Excellence Awards are. So as you're going through the portal, early and often, even if you're thinking of submitting an award, you don't have to pay up front to start your award submission. You can like ease into it and get into the process, but there is about, I would say probably 5 pages that you have to click through with all the information about your project. You have to sign a release form from the homeowner. You have to sign a photography release form if someone else took your photos. And so those are things you have to compile. So don't do it at the last minute. But then, you basically fill out all this information. If you used Schluter or Kohler or Delta, they want to know all the brands that you've used, because those are often NARI firms that they want to mention. And then at the very end, you upload a PDF, and that's where your 30-page document is.
Okay.
So that's really the process. But, the link is on the website, and just keep clicking through. It's not, I wish it was a little more visually helpful than it was. It's not the worst, but, it's not the best.
So is it possible for us to maybe put together like a group where if somebody really needed help getting their engine started on this, that they could turn to one of the three of you perhaps, or maybe Tony, or to get like a mentor to get started on this, because I don't have a company that I would do this for, but as I looked at it, I'm like, wow, this is kind of intimidating. But if I had somebody to hold my hand a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Anyone can reach out to us. We're happy to. We'll share a PowerPoint template or whatever else we can. Or yeah, if we want to, have an email group or however you guys want to do it. But yeah, we're certainly happy to help. As long as your project's not better than ours, then we'll probably sabotage you.
Then they'll sabotage. Tony just pointed out a couple of things that were you should remember as you're going through with the photographs. He said definitely try not to submit very small photos, and no photoshopping. Do not Photoshop your pictures or you'll be disqualified.
And kind of back to what Allie was saying, and then it's run by the NARI National. So the one thing that's really nice about it is once you have it all in there, you can submit to National with just a click of a button and a credit card number. But that's why it's so robust, is because it's set up in the same system that allows you to continue to the national submissions, and they're pretty diligent in the photo releases and all the paperwork, and just making sure all the ducks are in a row and no people in photos and all those rules. So, and we've done that several times. We usually submit more locally, and then we'll kind of split it into national submittals as well.
And then you become a nationally award-winning.
Well, you get, Contractor of the Year is what
Yeah.
NARI National will say, which is huge. I mean, that's a nice title.
And before that, there's a region. So there's basically, with putting together one submittal, you have the potential for 3+ awards, depending on how many categories you put it in. And I think you just pay for local, and then you pay for national, and national takes you to regional, I believe. That's correct.
Yeah.
And then you get to go to wherever the national award ceremony is when they can have those again.
Yeah, it was in what, St. Pete last year. It was in Florida somewhere.
It was going to be, I think it was virtual. But yeah.
Those were the days.
I remember them well.
Yeah, I haven't gone on any of the trips, but Russ, my partner, went on one to Charlotte, I believe, and then we actually sent our site manager out to San Diego out there to go to the award ceremonies too. So it's kind of a nice trip for personnel and to get away. We didn't win the awards, but I'm okay with it.
Are you, Dave?
Totally okay with it. Can't you tell? I'm very competitive.
As I think most of our members are. I mean, to own your own company, you kind of have to have that little competitive edge.
Well, I think we're all really proud of what we do. And I think our day-to-day makes it hard to really acknowledge that. Because we're putting our clients through a lot of pain, and certainly they're happy at the end of it. But, it's just not always the greatest feeling. And so I think, Allie, you were talking about kind of stepping back a little bit. It's nice to kind of step back and reflect on that project and get some accolades for it, because we all work really hard for it. And, our clients love it at the end, and we like to be able to celebrate that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird industry, right? It's like you work so hard just to have everybody want to get rid of you at the end of the project.
Yeah.
Everyone offers a party that never happens. It's just like.
It's certainly not the easiest way to make $1. So I think we all do it because deep down we really love it. Yeah. So this is a fun way as a community to kind of celebrate that.
Well, I think you spoke to it quite nicely before, is that, you guys are constantly solving problems. Most homeowners have some kind of problem they want solved, or there will be no pain to go through all the headache of remodeling.
Yep.
They have lots of problems.
All right, Sherry, you got one last question?
I don't. We've hit all of the questions that I had. Is there anything that our esteemed guests have a question on?
Tony, do you have anything to add? He says it is love of the game. That's right.
That's true.
He said your living room. I'm not sure what he meant by that. Oh, that's guest 630. So it'd be a little out of
So
sequence.
I think the biggest takeaway that we have is that yes, it appears to be intimidating when you first look at it, but we have many members who have gone through the process and are happy to help anybody who's struggling or intimidated. Most importantly, these are things that you should be doing anyway for your own company, for your own social media and website. And maybe this is a catalyst that you need to take your company to the next level. And that's what is wonderful about this organization. NARI Greater Chicagoland, I've never met a group of people who are potential or direct competitors who are so kind and helpful to each other and really want to see one another succeed. So I think it behooves everybody to take advantage of that. You know, these are real people who are doing the same thing you're doing. Reach out to them if you have any questions. Sonia asks, what is the deadline?
Does anybody
question.
know? October?
So early bird pricing ends October 1st. The standard deadline is October 23rd. And the late arrivals can come until October 28th, which is a Wednesday.
And the fees?
You shouldn't have told me that. Now will be the...
No, that's right. Yeah, it's a lot more money. So, yeah, so the early bird rate is 125. The standard rate is 150. And then the late arrivals, like Dave, are 200.
So if you're an early bird, it's only $125 to be able to say to your potential customers, we are an award-winning company. I think that's money well spent.
You'll spend more on dinner and drinks. It's true. All right, maybe I drink a lot, but more than I would spend on dinner and drinks. Loud and
I
proud.
can't Photoshop your photos, so no Photoshopping allowed.
Tony says you should think every project is a award-winning project. Plan for it.
That's right.
Sure.
Don't be intimidated.
Yep.
That's a great point. As you're going through a project, think about something that's, could be valuable to the story as you go through it. I mean, we had a project where we had a horizontal railing, and then the clients decided that they didn't want a horizontal railing because they didn't want their kids to climb up it late in the game. So we ended up finding a fireplace screen from Crate and Barrel and refabricating that into, a really cool railing piece. So that's something that as you're going, you're like, oh, this could speak to people. This is kind of a creative solution that could be award winning. I think we missed that year. I missed the deadline. So we actually put it in our calendar every year as soon as we have the submission deadline, like a month ahead of time, because it sneaks up on you in like no time. And then it is really hard to cram because it's a lot to put together.
Yeah.
At the last minute.
Yeah. Plus, you don't want to cram it. You want to take your time and make sure that you're telling that great story and enticing the judges to give you first place.
Exactly.
Any last thoughts, Joe? Allie?
No, I think we covered it. I think everybody should submit. And, give Dave and Joe and I a run for our money. Otherwise, we're going to sweep.
Yeah.
That's right.
Sure.
Tony said there were 485 national Cody entries last year. 485. That's for national. How many did we have for our local chapter, Allie?
A lot. I don't know off the top of my head, but there were a lot. So, again, do those categories. If you've done the submission once, submit it in multiple categories, pull it apart, let that thing work for your money. You spent a lot of time on it. That would be my biggest recommendation. Take that same project and submit it in multiple places.
One
Don,
thing. Can I interject? I know we were kind of wrapping there, but I think it might be helpful. Allie, you had some great points on using your phone for photos. I know we talk about pro photographers, right? But say you just need to get some photos. You mentioned there's some really good tutorials for it. I don't know if you have any good resources for that. We try and train our field personnel to take better photos because they like get a blurry zoom of a water heater. You know, it's like if you're there, you know, just take a picture of the space. So some rules that I usually try and do is I try and keep all the verticals vertical. It's just a simple one.
Yeah.
It's not natural because you're always pointing the phone up or down, but just hold it so that the verticals are vertical. And that usually makes it a little bit cleaner. If you're running a remodeling company and don't have a relatively current phone, just get one. It's a better phone. The new ones, the 12 or whatever, or this is a 10, I guess, that has a wide angle, and that'll change your life.
I was just going to say the wide angle is a must.
It'll totally, yeah, and that just came out a year and a half ago or something, but it's huge. It's great. You used to be able to do the panos, but those are pretty worthless. But the wide angle built into the phone is really good. I think a lot of the Androids have it too. We tried a lens that you could clip onto your phone that would make it wide angle. That was like $20 on Amazon, and that was okay. You know, it's something for a wide angle before photo.
Yeah, and YouTube, so I actually it was a course, I think it was like $99. It was the iPhone photography school. It was like some guy in Spain, whatever, but it actually was really helpful. And the iPhone has so many tips and tricks that are actually really easy to use, just like where you can click on it and show like where it's going to focus the light on. You have the portrait modes, so you can go to portrait mode, take a picture of a faucet, like go do it tomorrow, go to a job site, find one of those cool faucets, go to portrait mode and take a picture of that faucet. You'll be shocked at how that photo comes out. I mean, it looks great. Same thing when you're taking a photo, if you're taking a photo of the house, or try it in square mode, try it in portrait mode. That's why they're there, to make cool photos. And the other thing is
photoshopping, right?
Yeah, no photoshopping. This is just the iPhone, the different ways you can take the photo. And the other thing is YouTube. There are tons of people on YouTube that are talking about how to take photos, and different angles you can use. And, I would say, especially for that storytelling, you want to talk about, oh, we had this like beautiful room, like take a close up of some of those fixtures. And that really tells a story, and it really lets people say like, oh yeah, that's really nice, especially if you're submitting in a category that's like a lower dollar amount, which I always love those submissions, because those smaller dollar amounts where it's like under 30,000, under 50,000, under 25,000, those projects are all about the details, and the craftsmanship. Because the materials are not, it's easy to make a 3 cm quartz waterfall with a mitered edged countertop look good. It does look good, but try and make a Delta faucet on a 24-inch vanity look good. Well, put your phone into portrait mode and take a picture close up.
Is this not sponsored by Delta Faucet?
No.
and it won't be now.
I missed the opportunity.
I talked about Kohler at a Moen event once. It was really, I got like booed. It was bad.
Yeah. Well, this was fun.
It was good. I hope it helped people who were on the fence about whether or not they were going to submit. I hope it gave you that little push you needed. Oh, we didn't point out, Don made a comment. He said that one year an electrician won a national award for the neat piping he did for a dentist's office. So think outside the box.
Yeah.
Or in the wall.
Awesome. Well, thank you everybody so much for participating. And Michael, yes, you get a move on. Thank you, everybody. No,
Nice.
Tony, I don't think that iPhones are going to put photographers out of business.
No, but it's close. For video, it's really good. But yeah, I think we still need photographers. Don't worry.
Thank you, Allison. Thank you, Joe. And thank you, David. You guys
Thanks,
were
guys.
wonderful and a big help.
Yep. Thanks.
Thanks.
Thanks
Go
for having me.
Darby.
Whew.
Good night, everybody.